how do you go with an idea, a concept, to building the product, launching it, and putting it in the hands of hundreds, if not thousands, of users to let it test? What are the key considerations that you should take care of while building that software product? What are the steps to do to complete the software product? And what are the key stakeholders to be a part of that whole process? These are certain questions that I'm going to be answering in this video to build a software product. And what are the steps to complete a product development lifecycle? What is a product development lifecycle? A quick Google says that product development lifecycle is a 6-step process to take the product from an ideation to the execution and the delivery of the product. And it looks something like this. We should not confuse product development lifecycle with the product lifecycle. Product lifecycle is basically a process of the product into the market to the product that goes out from the market. So it is actually the commercial part of the product, and it's something that looks like this. Here's a side-by-side of product development lifecycle and product lifecycle itself. There is something more that we should consider about product development lifecycle, and which is, number one, product development lifecycle is not linear. There are lots of to and fro's, lots of loopings, and lots of cross-working in the process of the product development lifecycle. Number two, it varies from situation to situation, organization to organization, and it also varies in the software development methodologies as well. It is different for agile, it is different for waterfall, and it is different for hybrid as well. In agile, it keeps on emerging, and in waterfall, at some one time product development lifecycle gets evolved, and so far and so forth. I'm going to be walking you through a detailed overview of the product development lifecycle. I have created this mind map, a workflow of the detailed steps of product development lifecycle. This would walk you through all of the questions and answers, and I'll tell you about what are the purposes of the steps, about what are the key artifacts of that specific step, what are the deliverables, outputs of those steps, what are the key influences or the key stakeholders for that specific step, and what is the role of the product manager for that specific step, and lastly, what are the tools for that specific step. Now, talking about tools, there are multiple tools out there that could help you within the product development lifecycle, and it is not a hard and fast rule. There's nothing right, nothing wrong. You could use any tool that you prefer as a product manager, and you can use any tool that is prescribed by your organization. If you are a developer, if you are a designer, if you are a QA, product manager, a solution architect, or any person who has any kind of an association with a product or the product development, or has any concept or idea that you want to execute and launch into the hands of the customer, this video is for you. All right, let's dive directly into the product development life cycle. That is actually a 6-step process, and I've divided into like 3 parent categories. That is, first is discovery, and then we have planning, and then we have execution. But out of these, in discovery we have 2 steps like ideation research and in planning we have product identification, and then we'll have system design, and then we have, of course, development and launch. Now, as I said earlier, that we'll have these things identified, that in every single process, what is the purpose of that process? What are the steps to carry that process? What are the artifacts or deliverables of that process? And then what are the tools that you can use to deliver that process? And then lastly, what are the stakeholders or responsible for that process? So let's dive deep. I'll divide or color code them in different way. So for me, let's say purple would be purpose, blue would be steps, processes, green would be artifacts, deliverables, orange would be tools, and red would be responsibles. So let's go straight back to the first process, that is ideation. Why do we need ideation? Ideation is actually, what do you want to do? So this question is something that happens. So let's assume you're working on a product and you had an idea to develop a new product. So in that question, you will answer that, okay, if that is an idea, what do you want to do out of that idea? And if you're working into a product that is already built, then there might be a concern that you want to resolve something, you want to change something, you want to improve something, or you want to create anything that should be an add-on to it. So the second question could be, what do you want to solve, create, or improve? So let's assume you want to answer these questions. So what all the steps you can carry to complete this process? The first step that you will do is brainstorm. And to carry that brainstorm, you would have to gather the user feedback, to gather the market research, and to, of course, do the problem identification. After doing all of this, what you will get as an artifact? So all of this will get you an exhaustive list of items. Or you can say a backlog. But this backlog is a raw data or a format of details that you would want to further research on to get an idea that how you would want to technically build it. And for that, of course, you can use tools like Miro. You can use Figma. and you can use normal list. This is your preferences or anything that is prescribed by your organization if you're working into an organization, and you can get this carried forward. And what are all the key stakeholders you require to complete this is, of course, the product manager himself, designer, and the engineer. Why do we need engineer? It is not necessary, but why do we need engineer? Engineers are required to carry this forward just because once you complete this, you will have to have an engineer to build the product for you. And if you have the ideation part discussed with the engineer, you will get to know that okay, this is something that engineer can build, and that's how you can carry this forward. The second step is the research, and in the research, what you expect from this process, what do you want to have from this process, and uh, what is the purpose. Let me write that down. Research is actually carried forward that what is validate validated list items. And by this statement, I mean that okay, we have an exhaustive list out of the ideation format, but you want to do a validation on that list, that what needs to be done into your product and what needs to be eliminated out of that list, because everything that you got out of it should not be worked upon. So what are the key steps that you can do to like validate things? You can do primary research, and there is a secondary research. Primary research should be carried via doing surveys, doing interviews, whereas for secondary research you have to do the desktop research. That could be in the format of comparative analysis and all. That could be in the form of other gap analysis, and you can do this analysis to form a kind of a validated list or the backlog for the product. For surveys, you could use Google Forms, and for this desktop research and comparative analysis, you could use Gartner as a tool. Again, as I said earlier, that these tools are basically not termed as is it right or is it wrong or is it the best fit. It could be anything you can use and can get the required process done. What you will get out of these both is a validated list or brainstormed ideas to the product, you can say. You can also have MRD, that is also known as market research document. And what are the key stakeholders required to this as a product manager and a designer. Now let's talk about the third step of the product development lifecycle, that is product identification. Why do we need this product identification process, and what is the purpose of this product identification? Basically, this step refers to what you actually want the product to do. This is a question that, so let's assume you have the research, you have every single thing already stuck into your mind that, okay, let's assume I have the banking app and this banking app is doing these things, but that is a gap that I want to cover into my app. So that gap coverage is known as that this is something that you want your product to do. And to carry this, to answer this question, you will have to do these following steps. Like, let me do it this way because I cannot uh, link them up. So you can write use cases, or you can say user journeys. You can do the problem identification. You can also understand the product metrics. Why do you need the product matrix? Because let's assume you know the problem statement, you know the use cases, but how that use case is adding value or the business value to the product as it goes into the market. You can also suggest some UI UX. Of course, while doing the research, you must have gone through certain other products where you have seen certain UI UX that could be a part of your product. So that is something that you can think of. You can, of course, define priorities, define roadmap. You can also define release and what could be the MVP. So these are all of the things that you can do while the product identification, where you can see the whole holistic view of the product, that how it would go. And out of all of these, what you will get? You will get a PRD, that is product requirement document. Some people call it as SRS, software requirement specification. Some people call it as FRD, or some people call it on their kind of a thing. But this is the ultimate artifact that you can get out of this process. And what tools you can use? You can use InVision, you can use Miro, you can use Jira, Trello for timelines and all. You can also use Excel sheets. So these are the tools that you can use. Again, it depends on your priority, you and preferences, and anything that is prescribed to you. And what all needs to be a part of this is the product manager, of course, engineer, because he needs to know that what all you can develop, and then of course the designer. Now let's go to the next step, that is system design. And that should contain an architecture design, that should contain a technical design, that should contain also, what is the purpose of system design? Let's talk about that first. The system design is a kind of a visualization or a blueprint of that product that would tell you that how the system would be built, and this is necessary not for the product managers but for the developers and the QAs that are coming in to work upon that product. So the question is that how the product will be built, and the process that you would have here is architecture, design, and you can have tech design. Out of this, what all you can get? You can get actually a proof of concept, a prototype, so what is a proof of concept and what is a prototype? A proof of concept is something that is built for the technologies that are considered and that are told to be built upon. So let's assume it could be coded in a way that where the user can just choose, okay, this is the proof of concept. But the prototype is something that should not require these architecture design and all. You can just pull the product identification document or the PRD and create a prototype. And out of this, as I said, what are the artifacts that I have told you as this proof of concept and prototype? And it is a testable prototype that you can create, right? And in this, for this prototype, what are the steps that you can take? You can create a mock-up, you can create wireframes, and user testable format. Okay, so once this is created, what tools you can use? You can use Figma, you can use Adobe XD, and you can also use for proof of concept, you can use VS Code and any other code environment that you can use. And who all is involved in this? For this, you will need product manager. This is a more technical process. So product manager would be a basic use of this process, and he would just know that okay, this is happening, and should know the information of this, just because he must have that knowledge to ask the right question at the right time, but not more than this. And most of the times product managers doesn't know what are the architecture of the product, but this is something that is required to actually know the basics of the system. And we will require engineers, we will require solution architect, sometimes we require QAs, sometimes we also require DevOps. So this all will be required to create a system design. Once this design is ready, it could be a technical design, could be an architectural design, could be a prototype, could be a design that is required to carry the actual product forward. So then we'll go towards the development phase, and the development itself is carried forward. Why do we do the development? Of course, to what is the purpose? It is actually to give the shape to product. Okay, so it actually requires a process that is known as SDLC. What is SDLC? It is another process that has multiple steps, and it is software development lifecycle. And in that, you go with planning, then design, and then you go with development, and then go with QA for multiple environments or for multiple OSs and all. And then you go with deployment, and last step is maintenance, and it repeats itself. That's how the SDLC works, and it gives you an idea that how the product works. And after maintenance, it's planning, because let's say if you go in phase 2 and phase 3 and phase 4, it will give you this process in a repetitive format. What you will get out of it, uh, testable product, or you can say sometimes it's a usable product. Who all are involved and what are the tools that you can use? Of course, the dev environments are the tools you can use. You can use multiple API level tools. You can use DB level tools. And who all are involved? There are engineers, designers, QA, and then product manager himself is also involved in this process. Now, the last step is launch. Why do we need the process launch? To know what to give to customers. So for a fact, you had the idea, you have the ideation, you have the research, you have, of course, the product identification, you have system designs, you have the implementation, but for some reason, till the launch process, you would know that, okay, this is something that we have built, but this is something that we need to go over to the customers. And in the launch, you will have two different methods that you can involve into the launch. That is pre-launch and post-launch. In pre-launch, you would be working on, let's say, a website, a marketing page, you will of course do the user enablement, and this enablement will require to tell the team that, okay, if we go with the rollout, and there might be a support people that will be actively available to do the support of the feedback of the user. And then we will prepare some tutorial videos to educate the user, and we'll do certain documentations to let the user know that how this product will work. And then we'll have announcements, and these announcements will be of two types: internal and external. For the internal announcements, you could do emails, you could do press release for external uh, announcements. For the post launch, of course, you would need to address that data collection from this user, that who's using what and where the user is standing. And then we have customer feedback, and then we should have, as discussed, we should have customer support. Okay. After this, the product life cycle itself comes and gives you the idea about the product. So that's how a product development life cycle gets built. And that's how you can convert the idea or the concept into a real life product where the user can come in and use the product. Thank you so much. That's it from today. I'll see you in the next one.